Right guys, hope you're all doing great and you had a fantastic weekend. Thanks for the feedback on my last video, by the way. I knew it was a sensitive subject and I really appreciate the maturity in the comments for the most part. Now today I've got some news. You could call it 10 changes or additions coming with Warlords of New York, but these are things that you may not have known about, either because you've missed all the streams or it's been confirmed on Twitter rather than the official channels. If you enjoy this one, drop a like down below, a dislike if you didn't, subscribe for dedicated Division 2 content, and let's begin. So for some of you, this list may not be anything new, although I'd be surprised if you knew all of these. For a lot of you, there's likely going to be things here that you didn't know, and there will be some things I'm sure you guys will want to have your say on, so please leave your comments down below. So for number one, there are two separate recalibration libraries. Now, one thing to recently come out on Twitter was confirmation that the library feature coming with the expansion will have two separated libraries, level 30 and level 31+. Now, this is very important and could probably make a whole video on this alone, but I guess the important thing to understand about this news is there really isn't any need to hoard gear leading up to the expansion. And this is because, let's say you have a 500 gear score item, right? The update comes out and you want to recalibrate all of your high attributes into the library. Well, that's fine, but this will go into the level 30 slot. This means you won't be able to roll that high roll onto any gear above level 30. Do you see what I mean? The only time you want to hoard gear is if you are creating maybe an alt character and you want to ensure that they have access to those high attributes up to level 30. But aside from that, it's pretty much pointless. My recommendation would be keep all the stuff you need for levels 30 to 31, so probably the stuff that you're wearing in the live game right now, and get rid of the rest, except for mods, which you can use up to level 40 gear, although you are going to find mods on the way which are going to have better attributes, but maybe you want to keep a few of those for the time being. But yeah, I've seen this going around a lot, guys. There really is no need to hoard gear leading up to this expansion. Number two, damage to elites is being removed. This was quite possibly one of the biggest changes coming with Gear 2.0, and I'm pretty happy about it. Unfortunately, it does mean that anyone who was lucky enough to get a really high damage to elite mask, for example, we'll see this change to something else with the expansion. I myself, the highest I think I ever got was about 42%, but I've seen people with the highest max roll, which I think is 52, it may even be higher than that, and I'm pretty sure for those people this is going to be, or was, disappointing news. It's yet to be confirmed what this damage to elite stat will become on your masks, or wherever you have it really. Frederick recently commented on this, saying elites need to represent more challenge than other enemies, which damage to elites destroys. Damage to elites also shrinks the build meta substantially. Lastly, it creates a gap between PvE and PvP viable builds. It's gone and it's not coming back. And I think Frederick hit the nail on the head there with this comment on Twitter. Damage to elites pretty much became a crutch perk or crutch attribute. I'm thinking of Destiny here, but essentially it became, you have to have this. Now they made some changes obviously to the gear recently, where you could only stack the actual talent itself, hard hitting. You couldn't stack hard hitting, you could only have it once, but the actual damage to elites attribute on the mask, it kind of was the, you have to have this. If you're playing PvE content, you have to have this. It's so important. And this kind of removes that, and it opens up a wide range of other attributes that you can consider. I think it's a good move. A lot of guys, they're not particularly happy about it. For number three, we got armor regeneration will be constant. So in the live game, armor regeneration appears to be pretty useless for the most part, but it's had some changes and now it will be constant. And by now I mean the expansion. Take this Golan gear piece here. It has 1% armor regeneration brand talent, which might not seem like a lot, but in practice it could be strong. It's essentially a full medkit every 100 seconds, because 1 times 100 is the full amount. As you can see as well, it will be possible to roll armor regen as an attribute on gear as well, further increasing its effectiveness as an attribute. All I would say at this moment in time is do not overlook armor regen when this expansion comes out. With constant armor regen, this could become an essential attribute. We just don't know how strong this is going to be. It's also worth noting that you cannot get percentage-based armor regen rolls on gear. It would instead be real values, like 6k armor per second, for example. Moving on to number four, and I think most of you guys already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's going to be no stash space increase that I'm aware of. And I think this was, again, I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm sure some people would have thought maybe a stash space increase was on the table. With Gear 2.0, there should be now no need for increased space. Instead of hoarding gear, you'll now be rolling that gear into your library. So yeah, it's not needed. Inventory management fixed, question mark? It would appear so with Title Update 8. Moving on to number 5. The shock turret is coming back, but this time it's a shock trap. Now this looks crazy good. You can throw it and it kind of incapacitate all the enemies within proximity, or you can throw this down and use it as a tripwire. I'm a little bit surprised this made its way back to the game, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. The shock turret is probably one of the biggest kind of problems with the Division. Is one of those skills that everyone hated and everyone tried to get rid of it. So to see it come back here was very much a surprise. I guess the good thing is, just like the flamethrower, it doesn't just detect enemies and then start firing like it did in the Division 1. You will need to throw the shock trap into the proximity of enemies for it to work if you're wanting to to explode and incapacitate, or you're going to have to leave it covering a lane for it to work as a tripwire. It's going to require more skill to use than in the Division, but let me know what you guys think about the shock trap in the comments down below. I suspect a lot of you guys won't be particularly happy with it. There's nothing I hate more than being stuck in position, just shocked, and I can do nothing about it. And I'm a little bit surprised it's coming back, but we'll have to see how it works out. Number 6, the second raid will be free for everyone. So the Foundry, which is the second raid, yeah, everyone's going to get it. There was some concern that with the expansion announced and the second raid being delayed, that Ubisoft might have put the second raid behind the expansion, so that people had to pay for it essentially, but that's not the case. Massive confirmed this will be coming out, I believe, in summer, and it'll be free for everyone. I'm going to predict a date of around May time, possibly. I could be way off with that, but maybe a month or two, might even be April, guys, to give us some time to play through the new content, get used to the Gear 2.0, and then we can go play the raid. The good news is, if you don't purchase the expansion, but a friend does, you are going to be able to play the level 40 raid with them. There will be both a level 30 and level 40 raid, and they confirmed this in last week's State of the Game. So that's very good news. Number 7, not all exotics will upgrade to level 40. The devs have confirmed that all exotics listed under exotic within the crafting bench can be crafted again, if you've got the right components of course, when you reach level 40. Examples being the Nemesis and the Chatterbox exotic. The exotics under upgrade will not be updated to level 40 at launch, but they are going to make a return in a later update. Examples being the Eagle Bearer, the Merciless and Pestilence. The devs confirmed they did this because they wanted players to search and experience the new exotics coming with Warlords of New York, like Lady Death, which I believe is the new SMG, and it looks absolutely amazing. And then we've got the Bullet King as well, which obviously makes a reference back to the named enemy from the Division, and I believe this Bullet King, essentially you never have to reload with it. Now it makes sense, but I know a vast amount of people who grinded for a very long time to get certain exotics only recently, and now these won't be usable for some time with the expansion. I don't think it's a good move. Personally, I think everyone will still search for the new exotics, even if they can take all of the exotics they have now up to level 40. But who am I to say otherwise? The new exotics, they do look awesome. So that's why I think people will naturally try and get those regardless of whether the devs let all exotics go up to level 40. I'm a little bit surprised about this, but for any of you guys wondering, as I said before, it will be the case that you can upgrade them all in a later update. Number 8, mods will no longer contain raw weapon damage. This was confirmed a little while ago, but with all the stuff that's come out recently and everyone talking, I bet a lot of you forgot about that. And it's worth remembering. Instead, mods, they're gonna contain secondary stats like crit, headshot damage, skill repair, etc. The devs said they want Gear 2.0 to be more about making choices rather than navigating obstacles to make a build, and that's why Gear 2.0 has been made to, in many ways, simplify the game. The removal of weapon damage from mods, I believe, is kind of one step towards that vision, and I do think it's a good step forward. However, like a lot of you guys, there is some concern that depth has been replaced as a result. Sure, that's a valid concern right now, but let's see what happens. Personally, I'm pretty happy that I don't have to find, 4 mods with 4 times LMG. But then again, if you're a hardcore player and you like to look for all this stuff, then yeah, maybe you're going to be a little bit bummed out. Let's just see how this is going to work out. So for number 9, the Warlords of New York map size is about half the size of the Division map. On screen, you're going to see a map comparison posted to Reddit. I actually found this online, so I'm not totally sure who the original post came from, so I do apologise to the person who made this, but you did a great job. Now, I did cover this in a previous video, but just wanted to confirm it again here. Unlike the Division map, Warlords map will be a one-to-one recreation, just like Washington D.C. And I think this is a really good size for an expansion, especially if they increase the verticality of the area and of the space underground, because if they do that, then it might just feel like a very similar size to the Division map, and that's a good thing. So for number 10, there are no plans to increase the Dark Zone player count. This is a very controversial topic. In fact, as of my making this video, there is still very much talk and debate on Twitter about this. And I think what has become clear from all the comments that I've seen is that the current player count of 12 is too low, and most people want this to be increased to at least 16. Now, I have no idea whether or not that would be a good idea. From my limited experience, I'd say that sometimes it can feel absolutely dead in the Dark Zone, even with 12 players. But it does depend on what sort of players are in there. In the live game, a lot of people going into the Dark Zone do so for the PvE side rather than the PvP. With the changes coming with Warlords, I suspect the majority of people going into the Dark Zone will be people who are there for PvP. And I think that's going to make a huge difference to the amount of encounters you come across, even with 12 players. I think 16 players could be too much as well for stability for the game. Sometimes the game really does struggle when you've got multiple people shooting, using skills, and all the stuff you do in a fight. So to increase that, with a further 4 players, could really harm the stability of the game. I know I'd rather have one fight every 5 minutes that went smooth than one fight every 2 minutes that was, played with lag. And I don't think the player count was the issue with the Dark Zone, to be completely honest. I think the main issues are being fixed with the Warlords expansion, and I'm hoping to spend a lot more time in there come March 3rd. So I hope this video has been able to answer some questions you guys may have had. If there's anything else you'd like to know, please leave it in the comments, and I'll try to make another video covering what I can before the expansion comes out. I did put out a community post recently asking if you guys had any questions, and I've answered some of you back, so please check for my response. But that's it though. Thanks for all your support, guys. Until the next one, Epic out.